Hello and welcome. Welcome to Around the Town with Mark. I am Mark Whalen, your host. And yes, you know, we're always glad that you tune in and visit with us. Well, you can see I'm all decked out in red, and I've got a red Santa hat in front of me. That means, well, of course, it's that time of year again. It's the holiday season. And red, of course, is being a traditional color of Christmas. And Christmas is all about traditions. Traditions that go back a long, long time and have changed and evolved until the Christmas that we know today. Well, my guest today is going to talk about Christmas past, especially how it is reflected through the beautiful Avery-Copp House Museum. So let me go right to introducing my guest to you, Leslie Evans, the director of the Avery-Copp House Museum on Thames Street in Groton. Leslie, welcome, I should say, back to Around the Town with Mark.
Thank you very much, Mark.
We're always delighted to have you as a guest and talk about the beautiful Avery-Copp House. So please, let's first introduce the Avery-Copp House to our audience, and then we'll have you introduce yourself.
I sure will. So the Avery-Copp House is a historic house museum.
There we go, with a picture of it right there.
On Thames Street in Groton, 154 Thames Street. So we're just south of the Gold Star Bridge, near Paul's Pasta. Many people will use that as a landmark when coming to us. But it's a house built about 1800 and lived in by many generations of the same family who experienced Groton as it evolved from a very small settlement into a bustling riverside community. And that's the story that we share there is the history of Groton.
Great. Well, we'll talk a whole lot more, of course, about the house. And please introduce yourself and your affiliation with the Avery-Copp House.
Sure. So again, my name's Leslie Evans, and I'm the director of the Avery-Copp House Museum. And the Avery-Copp House is a young museum, just a little over 10 years old. So I've been there since the beginning as it was going through the transition from a family home that was lived in to a museum to be open to the public. So it's been a really interesting evolution to be able to be part of that.
I was going to say how fortunate for you to be
it was
part
fascinating.
of such wonderful, rich history. Well, I think we should mention right away one of the things that's so fascinating about the Avery-Copp House is it's not just an empty house. It's an old house. It's full
It's
of
certainly anything
all the
but
treasures.
empty, that's for certain. That's sometimes a challenge to us. It is like a time capsule, really. It still contains all the original family possessions, so furniture and artwork and
so unique.
Things large and small and everyday things and really special things. So it's very authentic. It's not a recreated house at all. So because it is so authentic, it really helps us to be able to tell the stories that we want to share with people about the history of our region.
What is the, let's just talk again a little bit about the house in general. It is a museum, obviously. What is your usual season? And then your off season, obviously, for the holidays.
Yeah, so we're open for guided tours during the summer season, so say from mid-May until mid-October, where we give tours on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so people can just stop by any time between the hours of 11 and 3 on those days and have a guided tour of the house. But we're also open for special events throughout the year. Sometimes we have open house type of events where people can just come and go as they please, and we're getting ready for a Christmas one that I'll be talking a little bit more about later in the program. But we do offer educational lectures and workshops also on a variety of subjects, and those take place throughout the year. So people who are interested in that can go on our website and learn more about it, or give us a call. If you'd like to be on our mailing list and get a calendar in the mail, we're happy to send that out to you as well.
Wonderful. Well, there on our screen is the phone number, the email, and the website. So I hope my viewers will all take that down and obviously go back to that website often and check on what events you've got coming up.
All kinds of different things happen there, from adult hands-on workshops based on gardening maybe, or we have children's programs, we have tea parties, we have lectures on different historic themes. So there's something for everybody.
And it's a beautiful setting, and you've got a lot of nice property they can stroll.
We do. We have 3 acres there.
That's
a beautiful
lot of
grounds.
acreage for
Yes,
that
lots
area at
of
that time.
really lovely old trees, and it's a nice place to walk. And we're very dog friendly for walking as well. So
Okay,
people are
wonderful.
welcome to bring their dogs and have a nice walk there.
And of course, the whole general area of that area is beautiful with old homes and
It is.
and things.
The Grottenbank neighborhood is a really interesting neighborhood architecturally. It's a neighborhood that a lot of sea captains built their houses there and wanted to show their prosperity through their
Sure.
their house. So there's quite a lot to see for people who are interested in architecture in our neighborhood.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's launch into
All right.
what you want to share with us as far
Okay.
as the traditions of Christmas past.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit. We're having two events coming up that
All
focus
right.
on the holiday season, and one is
Wonderful.
our annual Christmas open house, and the other is a performance event.
All right. So
I
again,
thought,
make sure everybody write these dates
Yes.
and times and everything else.
So
down.
I'll talk first about the Christmas open house and what people can expect if they come to that. But for a little bit of background, I just wanted to talk a bit about the history of Christmas as it has
Sure.
been celebrated here in New England, because it has changed in its traditions. We tend to have our favorite traditions now and think it was always that way, but it really was not.
For instance, the
For-
Santa Claus
That's
hat and
right.
the red.
You wouldn't have been seeing that in the
Right.
time when Groton was first settled in the 17th century. So what you would have been seeing, well, why don't we show? I'd like to show a picture of what you wouldn't have been seeing, but what many when people first settled in New England from England, they brought with them the knowledge of this kind of Christmas. In England, in the 16th, 17th, 18th century, Christmas was a rowdy business.
Sort of like what
It
we're
was
seeing
a
on
lot of
screen now.
overindulgence,
Okay.
eating to excess, drinking to excess, dancing, gambling, playing
Haven't we
games.
kind of gone back to that
Yeah,
now?
when the Puritans, who were trying to, in essence, purify the Church of England, they wanted to come and get away from all that. And so even though Christmas was celebrated in the southern colonies and the mid-Atlantic colonies and in New York, it was not celebrated in New England. It was actually
Oh,
forbidden.
really?
Forbidden.
Oh, wow.
So you wouldn't have seen any of that, wild behavior. There was a fine for observing Christmas, and it
My
really
goodness. Wow.
wasn't legal to celebrate. People didn't really start celebrating Christmas in New England until about the 1830s. So it's really quite recent.
That's fascinating. I had no idea.
So the first 200 years of our settlement, our colonization, and then when we became an independent country, Christmas was not something that people focused on in New England.
And what we have now on screen is sort of what an
Yeah.
early New England Christmas
Yes,
might have been.
and as it started to come into the New England culture, it came in slowly, and it came in with different ethnic groups coming. The Dutch brought certain traditions, and Germans brought other traditions, and people liked these things and started being interested in them and bringing them into the home. And this is showing a small Christmas tree, a tabletop type Christmas tree that was introduced maybe in the 1840s, 50s, 60s, that time
Oh,
period.
okay.
And a family focus. You'll notice all the children there and toys around the Christmas tree. So getting away from the, drinking and dancing and,
Okay, yeah.
going crazy kind of affair to a family-centered, child-centered, gentler experience. And also a religious experience, celebrating the birth of Christ and Christmas carols and hymns that focused on that. That started to be.
Yeah, because so many people think of Christmas, well, of course, it's, thousands of years old, but
Yes.
it's not really true as far as the celebration aspect
Not
of
in our, not
the
in
one
our-
that we know
not
today.
in our part of the world. No, but by the mid 19th century, say 1850s, 1860s, by the time of the Civil War in this country, Christmas did look very much like the Christmas that Charles Dickens describes.
Oh, really?
With
Yeah.
a feast. People would try and put a really nice dinner on the table for those who could afford it. It might be quite, extravagant.
Christmas
For other
goose or
people, it just
something.
might mean having as much as you wanted to eat that day, which people, poorer people didn't always have, or
Right.
having some meat on the table, having a plum pudding. So those kinds of traditional things, and exchanging small gifts certainly wasn't as materialistic as things have become, but exchanging small gifts. Gift giving still focused more around New Year's Day than Christmas
Did it
Day,
really?
but
New Year's, really?
it started to come in. And when Queen Victoria came onto the throne in England in the 1840s, everything she did was really interesting to people, not only in England, but on our side of the Atlantic too. People were interested in what royalty did and wanted to copy it, even though on a much smaller scale. And when images started to come out of her family celebrating with a Christmas tree, and that really raised the interest of that kind of thing.
Okay.
So Queen Victoria had a lot to do with popularizing the Christmas tree, because she had married a man from Germany who brought those traditions with him to
Yeah.
England.
Yeah.
So it was new in England too for the Christmas tree, but it quickly embraced. So when people come to the Avery-Copp house, they'll see some of this Victorian influence, and then later times as well. So this Christmas tree that we're looking at now is a World War II era Christmas tree.
Okay.
So in one of our rooms in the house, we have it set up to reflect what Christmas would have been like in the 1940s in Groton.
Oh, wow.
So you'll see a tree decorated with ornaments from that period, pretty big lights on the tree, and other simple decorations that people would have been able to get in the 1930s and 1940s. And then thinking about how people were impacted in Groton by World War II, there was a very strict blackout restriction.
certainly.
And so you wouldn't have had outdoor Christmas
No, I
lights
guess
up
you would
at
not
all.
have.
No.
No.
And if you had a Christmas tree that was lit inside, you had to be sure you had blackout shades on your windows that would keep any of that light from shining out. And then thinking about rationing that was going on, and maybe you wouldn't be able to make your favorite Christmas treats because you couldn't get the kind of sugar or butter that you wanted.
Things that we so take for granted
Yeah,
nowadays.
so
We just do.
people really had to make do during those times and reuse things and be creative about what toys they could get. A lot of metal that was being put into the war effort made it so that you couldn't get metal toys anymore. So there were a lot of wooden ones, and not much at all in the way of plastic.
I was just going to say, and there really wasn't
So
plastic.
really, a kind of a revival in traditional toys that came onto the market, and so people will be able to see some of that. Some things are still popular, and you'll see them still and be familiar with certain games and toys. And some of the Christmas decorations now we'd say, well, they're retro, but this is what they were originally. So we like to see that. And then people will also be able to walk through the rest of the house, not just that room, but up to the second floor, and we'll have trees showing different themes in different rooms like this. This is a second
beautiful.
floor landing that has some handmade decorations on it. And then we even take people, they can, if they want, they can go up to the third floor where the servants' quarters were and see some of the things that they might have had for Christmas. And these servants were usually Irish immigrant women living in the house, and they celebrated Christmas, but they were Catholic as opposed to Protestant, as their employers were. So they had some different beliefs, plus their Irish traditions that they brought with them. So people can see a little bit about that when they visit the servants' quarters at Christmas time.
How very, very rich and diverse this is.
It is. It's fun to see it over time and across cultures. And it all would have been happening right here in Groton, as in many other towns in New England.
Wonderful. And other things, I know you've got lots of stuff coming up at the
We
house?
do. So again, that Christmas open house, if people come to that, that's this Sunday,
Okay.
December 10th from 4 to 6. And
All right,
that's
write that down,
that's
everybody.
completely free.
Okay.
So you can come and go as you please anytime during those hours, and just explore the house at will, have some Christmas treats. We have traditional cookies and other goodies out made from old-fashioned recipes. And
Yeah, I think we just had a picture
Yeah,
of
so
a gingerbread house. on the
yeah, so
screen.
it's
There we
really
go.
fun to be able
Yeah,
to see that. And
yeah. I remember a lot of those types of candies.
oh yeah, there are a lot of
Yes.
old-fashioned candies on there, ribbon candies and
Those little disc
Necco
things.
wafers.
Is that
Yes,
what those were? Yeah, I
that's what
remember
the shingles are made from those.
Yeah.
And those would have been a sensation to have that after World War II, when suddenly you could get sugar again. So
Well, I think it would be a sensation to have something that elaborate
It-
today's
it's
world.
lovely.
It's a
So
lot of
children
work.
really like to look at that. But this is a free event, and it's our gift to the community. And
Wonderful.
if people would like, they can bring a donation for the Groton Food Bank when they come, and we collect for
Well,
that all through
we
the month
certainly
of December.
encourage
So
people
that's
then to
great to bring a
remember that,
Yes, any kind of non-perishable donation that you'd like to bring, you can just drop off with us, and we'll get it over there to them.
That's a small price to pay to be able to come to a beautiful house like
And,
this
and it's important
enjoy
to
the festivities.
Yeah, to be able to do something for somebody who
Well, the time
who
of
needs
giving
it.
to those that are less fortunate, it's sort of what Christmas is supposed to mean for
It
a lot of
is,
people.
and that's a great segue, actually, Mark, into the next event that I want to talk to you
All
about,
right.
because this is an event based on Charles Dickens' much-loved story, A Christmas Carol. And that's the theme that he was trying to get across when he wrote this book about helping people who are less fortunate than you are. There were a lot of people, this was in the 1840s in England, and there were a lot of people living in extreme poverty and no social service kind of help for them. And he was very concerned about issues like child labor and hunger and homelessness.
I've been thinking about the Christmas Carol as you've been talking, and so much about the history that you're talking about. You really see in the Christmas Carol.
You
and
do.
It's more. I think a lot of people should look at this story as it's very historical.
It's a really interesting work, because it's a great, for us now, it's a great peek at history at Christmas in a time gone by.
But it really is a really true history lesson.
Absolutely.
Watching this.
It absolutely.
And
it's
a ghost story.
It is a ghost story. And,
So you got the ghost, and you got a history lesson wrapped into a fun.
and some, social commentary there as well. And so the reason
Certainly.
I'm bringing it up is that we have at Christmas a Dickens Parlor theater event, where it's a performance event that takes place on 2 nights, Friday, December 15th, and Saturday, December 16th.
Is the lovely lady that we have on
Yes,
the screen,
and
is that the actual?
this is Jennifer Emerson
Okay.
who performs it.
Wonderful.
And what she's doing is performing a type of theater that people would have had in their homes in the Victorian era, in a time prior to being able to go to the movies or having anything like that. People had to have their own entertainment. And
About what period dress is she in?
about in the 1860s.
Really? So about the Civil War era time?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
And so this book, being introduced in the 1840s, was immediately very popular and has never been out of print. So it was a story that people were really familiar with, and they might have someone come into their home and perform it and invite friends and family to see it.
The
and
days
that-
before, like, you just turn on the TV and
That's
watch
right.
the movie of
And
the
that's what
Christmas
Charles Dickens did too. He went from city to city giving a reading of A Christmas Carol, and he would use different voices for all the different characters and have minimal props to make sound effects and so on. And that's what Jennifer Emerson does for us too. She'll evoke a character like Scrooge, who we're very familiar with.
There he is right
And
now.
there he is.
Glaring at us.
And she makes herself be Scrooge, and you just are completely taken into it. It's really a fabulous performance and a great way to experience a classic story in a very traditional kind of intimate setting. So for that event, people do need to register ahead of time because
Okay.
because of the size of the parlor and the amount of people, we can only
They
take so
register
many.
right there
So
by going into your
so
website?
they can
Or call
or
you?
give us a call, and
Okay.
we can get people signed up for that. But it's a great, really gets you in the spirit of Christmas to hear that story in that kind of setting. So it's one of my favorite things that we do at the museum
Wonderful.
throughout the year.
Well, it's tell us again. It's that one in particular is
So the Dickens Parlor Christmas is on Friday, the 15th of December, and
Okay.
Saturday, the 16th of December.
Okay,
Both of
great.
those performances
So
are at 6 o'clock.
opportunities for everybody.
Two opportunities,
Okay,
and
wonderful.
I think there are still a few seats left on Saturday, and I know there are some left for Friday. So
Well, we encourage
we'd
everyone
love to have people
sign up.
come and see Jennifer perform that. But again, too, if you're interested in coming and just seeing what the museum is like at Christmas, experiencing, taking a peek at Christmas from different eras, and just enjoying the house at that time of year, you can do that this Sunday, December 10th, from 4 to 6 o'clock, and
Okay.
that's completely free.
All right. Well, everybody loves the word free.
I know, it's nice to have something free once in a while.
Especially this time of year,
Yes.
something as festive as this. And we should also mention that really there's plenty of ample free parking all around the area.
There is. We are very lucky that we are right across the street from a wonderful restaurant called Puffin's, who they are not open on the weekend, but they're very gracious in allowing us to use their parking lot for museum events.
Wonderful.
So
Because that's a big issue for a
It-
lot of people
oh, it
wanting
is.
to know that if they're going to something that's a big event like this, that they don't have to worry about parking.
they don't. There's a
walking.
big
It's
parking lot right
there.
across the street, and there is parking also right on Thames Street.
Yep.
So we do have that.
I mean, how much better does it get? A beautiful antique house decorated for Christmas, free parking, 2 opportunities. It's
Christmas goodies and
Christmas
refreshments,
goodies
the
and
works.
refreshments,
So
the
we hope
works.
people will come and enjoy it. We'd
Yeah.
love to meet people who have never been to see us before, and we'd love to welcome back old
And
friends at this
obviously,
festive
again,
time
if
of
they
year.
can, to please bring a donation.
Yes, we're really happy to be able to support our local food bank. There's
Yeah.
a tremendous amount of need, and not just at Christmas.
Sure.
But
And that
this
could
is
be something very inexpensive.
a can of soup or
you
a
know,
jar of peanut butter can make all the difference.
yeah, and
So-
easy. So
Yeah,
please.
and if you can't come to our Christmas party and still want a convenient place to drop off your donation, you can do that either at our museum or at the Bill Memorial Library,
Okay.
just up the street from us, is
All right.
also very gracious in collecting for the food bank.
Okay, well, I hope my audience is taking note of
Mm-hmm.
that, because the Bill Memorial Library in itself is a beautiful destination.
Oh, really lovely.
Beautiful historic library up in Groton Bank in the same area.
Yeah, we're really lucky in our neighborhood to have these great community resources and historic resources too. The library is beautiful. We have the Fort Griswold Battlefield State Park just around the corner, and the
Well,
Ebenezer Avery House is another.
We really are very fortunate because
Mm-hmm.
it's such a very rich area that we have here in Groton. Very, very unique. With the historic areas. And then, of course, the Thames River, our military presence. We're very fortunate. We're very, very lucky.
Groton has a lot of stories to tell. And
Yes.
everything you start to research or to learn about takes you down a new road to learning something else. So come and give us a try if you'd like. We'd love to have people come and visit us. And if you're interested in the Dickens Parlor Theater, give us a call and we can get you set up for tickets for
Make
that.
sure you give a call right there. It's a very easy number to do. We're winding down for our last 5 minutes or so. Is there some Christmas topics or museum topics that we haven't mentioned that you'd like to share with my audience?
Well, just going into the new year, we'll be having a couple events coming up that people might want to go on our website and learn more about.
Okay, please.
One is a Victorian fashion lecture.
Oh.
So There, with the PBS series Victoria that was on last year and is going to be going into its second season, I believe, this January. People have gotten really interested in the fashion of the Victorian era, and we have a textile conservator and historian named Susan Jerome, who has offered to do this lecture for us. So it's an illustrated lecture, and she'll no doubt bring some examples of costumes as well. And so people can learn about that, and that's in January. And then in February, now we're really getting on to the next holiday already, but Valentine's Day coming up. So we do have a historic Valentine program where people come for a tea and also make a historic Valentine and learn about some of the traditions around Valentine's Day in the past. But that's for another year. That's for 2018. So I won't get too far ahead of myself. Let's enjoy the end of 2017 first. And so again, just encouraging people to come and see the house, all decorated for Christmas, and different time periods represented. So from the quite opulent Victorian parlor all the way up to the third floor to see how the housekeeper's room might have been decorated.
Even, I know I've been in the museum house, it's wonderful, but even simple things like kitchen items.
The kitchen's my favorite room of all. I love the kitchen. And
it's really fascinating because you do see so many different eras of cooking and
one thing I'm really excited about, I wish I had a picture to show, but next time I will. In our kitchen, we have a wonderful wood-burning stove that was recently restored. And we've had the chimney redone so that we can hook it up and get it operating again, with the hope of then being able to teach food-based historic cooking programs. So people will be able to come and learn how to make jam, say, or do different things, or watch me cooking different items. So it's going to add a whole new element to our interpretation of that kitchen.
Very interactive type things.
I'm really excited about it.
So, I mean, the Avery-Copp House Museum offers, as we've been saying all through the show, so much more than just going to what I would call a dry museum and looking at things that you can't touch or you can't experience. But here you can win this house and you can touch, you can smell, you can really experience the life that was lived in these houses.
Yeah, so it's always a fine line to draw between preserving the artifacts that are in a museum and bringing them to life for people. But we do always try and include things that people can touch and smell and experience and even taste sometimes.
Well, Leslie, I want to thank you so much for being my guest today and for
thank
sharing
you for
the
having
Avery-Copp
me.
House.
Really, really nice to be able to come and spend the time with you.
I know you can't see this, everybody, but remember that Sunday, December 10th, 4 to 6, free, wonderful event. 2 other events coming up, so please go to that website. And I also want to invite you personally to an open house here at SCCTV Studios, it's hard to say in a hurry, between the Old Bennies and the post office. It's a holiday open house. It is Thursday, December 14th from 5:30 to 8 here in the studio. Meet the studio people, see behind the scenes. They have live music, wonderful food and drink. So please come out, visit us. I'll be here. I'd love to meet you all. Another holiday open house that's free. And of course, always remember to tune in to Around the Town with Mark. We'll have another great show coming up for you soon. And if I don't talk to you or see you beforehand, have a wonderful holiday season. And thank you again for tuning in today.